Like I said in the previous concert, I believe that this was an independent film, and then Hammer just acquired the distribution rights for it.
I don't know because, like I said, there's that whole thing with them buying the rights to this.
Mhm.
All right, in three, two, one, go. There we go.
But now that I've seen this, I'm pretty sure I've seen every Matt Reeves movie, and that's pretty cool.
I think I have also seen every Matt Reeves. I haven't
He's
seen
just like
Cloverfield in forever, but
he's just one of those low key talents that's very consistent. Doesn't have a ton of movies, but I don't know where I'd rank him. But he's got a good shot at cracking like my top 10 favorite directors. I mean, he's made enough
he
movies I think are great.
he directed a romantic comedy movie in the '90s that I have not seen.
Oh, weird.
What's even
I guess that
weirder is this is his directorial debut. It has David Schwimmer, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Tony Collette. And
damn.
what's even
That's
weirder is he directed that '96 and then doesn't direct another movie until Cloverfield in 2008.
that's crazy. To be fair, the reason for that is probably because in that in between time must be when he teams up with J.J. Abrams and they do a ton of TV stuff together. Because
Oh,
I'm
maybe.
blanking
Yeah.
on the title, but I think that Carrie Russell show Matt
Oh,
Reeves is a big part
Felicity.
of with JJ Felicity. That's it.
Yeah, no, because
So
I look
that
here a
would have.
bunch of he's got a bunch of TV credits. I've always been curious about that Felicity show. I don't know what it's about, but
But my understanding, this is probably incredibly unfair, is that shows like Felicity were big hits that JJ got a lot of the credit for. And then when you're 20 years removed from that, in hindsight, people are starting to realize, like, oh, Matt Reeves is probably the more talented of the two and had a bigger hand in like the
yeah,
good
no,
stuff.
I didn't know that he Matt Reeves was involved with that show until just now. Like, I've always just heard it. There was a JJ show.
It was a JJ show, yeah, exactly.
I'd be curious to watch that show. It sounds cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I have seen every film that he has directed except The Pallbearer, and I don't know if I need to see that.
So
Yeah,
how do
see,
you feel about
already
this?
this looks more like what I want this story to look like.
Okay, how do you feel about this cold open? This flash forward.
Very American.
It's very American. I feel like
We
it's
know
a
you're here for the
trope.
vampire, so we're going to show you that there is something going on here because we don't trust your attention span.
Yeah, what I think justifies it is it does through this opening is where we're introduced to the detective character, and then he becomes a recurring character throughout it, where we get his POV. I think that helps justify this choice. That it's not like entirely random.
Mhm.
Because
I don't
we are
even care
first.
like how he serves the story. Like it's just good to see Elias Koteas in something.
He's great. He's so good in this, and it, like I said, this is an effective way to be initially in his POV where he doesn't know what's going on. This is all new and a mystery to him, and then we splinter
If
off.
if there was ever a guy born to play, I'm too old for this detective. Besides Danny Glover, it's Elias Koteas.
I hope Matt Reeves puts him in another movie. Put him in the Batman 2.
He
He
would have.
needs more work.
He's not overweight, but I think he'd be a really good Bullock.
Oh, he'd be a great Bullock. Yeah, I'd love that.
Honestly, maybe this would be pushing it. If we didn't already have a Gordon, I would have said he could have been a decent Gordon.
Oh, totally. And like you said, this opening gets very American. Like we need you to know this is a horror film. It's about vampires. We're not
That's what's so
gonna
powerful about
make
it.
you wait for the scary. We're not gonna make you wait for the scary stuff. It's also a trope we've done a lot in recent years of getting a prologue and then jumping 2 weeks earlier, 1 year earlier, and it's something we're kind of sick of now. But maybe in 2010 was a little less overdone, so it's not bothering me here. And one thing that I really like about this remake, or what you should do if you're going to remake a popular foreign film, is okay. Well, if you're gonna set this in America, actually let that inform the story. Like, let's see the differences in
No,
our
it's not
culture or things
just
from our culture.
awkwardly Swedish, but with American people.
Right, because one addition we get that's not in the other one is the Satanic Panic. Because this is set in the 80s, and the Satanic Panic is a big thing in America in the 80s, so that's an element here with this detective where he's like, "Are you a Satanist? You're a weird blood guy who kills people. I'm jumping to Satanist," and like he's not super far off. And then we're gonna see other little touches like that that are very American 80s that I really like. And I think this scene is pretty effective. Where from where again from this detective's perspective, where we don't get to see the death yet. We're playing it up as a mystery. Like I would love to know somebody's reaction to this who doesn't know it's a vampire movie, who goes in completely cold, who hasn't seen the original.
So, like, I'm making fun of it because it's such a cliche at this point. This isn't a bad way
Hmm.
it's not as bad as like the Evil Dead opening, which is like,
Feels
don't
very tacked
worry,
on.
there's deadites. You came to see the deadites. We're gonna put deadites in the first 5 minutes of our movie.
And it's very unconventional because usually when you do a cold open flash forward like this, it's something at the end where it's like you get to the end of the movie and oh, now that opening makes sense. Now I know what's going on. But we're gonna pay this off like at the midpoint. There's still gonna be an hour of movie left when we catch up to this. So, like I said, it's structured very unconventionally, and I like the way they allude to like Reagan in this, where this is a time of fear. It's also a time of family values, trying to get back to old fashioned America, and all care about the kids, care about family. And meanwhile, in our story, where the focus is going to be on a kid in a broken home, with
Which
divorced
is
parents
why
who's dealing with bullying.
I fundamentally disagree with the people that say this is just the same movie. Because the
Mhm.
moment you do this opening, is a different film.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
scenes may be
this is
similar, but they're accomplishing different things.
yeah, this is not a shot for shot remake. It rides
Psycho
that line.
1998. Thank God.
Exactly. It rides that line really well of being very true to the original and getting the same story while still having a different spin on it and updating it and changing
You
it.
know,
Like
if
it
Flanagan
rides
doesn't
that
want to
line really
do
well.
it, I would like to see what Reeves does with the Shane.
Oh yeah, he did good. That's what I want. I mentioned I was gonna mention this earlier. Whenever Matt Reeves' whole the Batman saga is over like 10 years from now, I kind of want him to do a horror movie after that. Go back to
Yeah.
something more like this. Because there's a lot of clear horror inspirations in the Batman and with his sensibilities. I'd love to see him go back to because with the apes movies he did something a bit more mythic and like adventure, crowd pleasing, epic. Those were his epic movies. And with the Batman, he kind of gets to do a bunch of everything, like comic book, superhero, action, noir, horror, all that stuff. I like to see him do just a straight up horror movie after that. I think that could be really cool.
I love how much of an asshole his dad is. He calls at dinner to like berate this woman.
Yep. And this shot's great with the phone cord in front of the kid. Like he looks like he's trapped. He looks like he's chained.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this is a shit
He looks like
situation.
he's suffocating.
Mhm.
And as someone who grew up in a split home, like I can relate to that.
And that's why this version works, because Matt Reeves could relate to this story. He was inspired by it. He had a take. It affected him. You know, again, this is not a cynical studio cash grab just because they have the IP, like, you know, that comic or that Showtime TV show.
Have you been having issues with YouTube chat? It keeps connecting and disconnecting me.
Uh, no, it looks good to me.
Has there been any chats that I've missed while I was disconnected?
I now I haven't seen any. Um, I will type something in just to see if it sticks.
I didn't expect a big turnout for this anyway. These are more
Oh
niche.
yeah,
This is self-indulgent,
and,
Robert.
there's a lot going on in this scene that's different. This kid like acting out this fantasy, wearing this mask. Like, I get the impression he's probably watched some slasher movies. He's probably like into horror shit because the whole like true crime element of him is kind of dropped. Like, we don't
Mhm.
get the scrapbook of like murders and stuff, but this version of this kid's also a bit of a peeping tom. He's also watching his neighbors. It's very uncomfortable.
What is he, Clark from Smallville?
And it's got the same telescope.
I wonder if Cap's seen this.
He might like this movie.
I'd be fascinated to see his like reaction to the way this movie ends.
Yeah, and that one's tough because, like, which one do you recommend? Which one do you think you should see first? Because I wouldn't be able to say.
I don't think I could say like. I guess it's just the one that the recommender prefers. So like, I'm gonna recommend this one because I prefer this one, but you might recommend the Swedish one because you prefer that one,
Mhm.
or just tell him to stop being a pussy and watch both.
Yeah, and this is an element more with this version than the other one. Of this kid's really interested in sex, and it's kind of a perv.
That's also very American.
Mhm.
Oh, you hit the certain age now. That is all you think about, according to fiction.
Like like little Tommy Jarvis in Friday 4.
Listen, if this had the bed jumping scene from Final Chapter,
It should. And that's an element. That's another element that they draw more attention to in this one. That is in the first one. They just put more emphasis on it here. Is that our little vampire girl is barefoot? Um, I don't know what we're doing with that, but it's in both versions. But it's like you were talking about earlier, though, with Buffy, where like they can't taste food anymore. It's like, yeah, their take on vampires. It's like, oh yeah, they don't feel anything. Like, they don't feel cold. They don't feel hot. They can't enjoy any normal human pleasures, and it's like, oh god, that sounds like a horrible trade-off for being immortal.
it even looks like a peeping tom.
Yeah, he's a weird looking kid.
And
Good actor though.
he's been in stuff. I recognize him. I just don't know for what.
Cody Smit-mcphee. Matt Reeves brings him back in his first Planet of the Apes movie. He's the teenage kid in
Oh,
Dawn
okay.
of Planet of the Apes, and then he's a younger Nightcrawler in Apocalypse
Oh,
and Dark Phoenix,
I
which
wish I
sucks because
remembered those movies.
he was good casting in shit movies.
I mean, I have that with all of the like young. Their Storm in those in Apocalypse is too good for that movie.
Perfect. Yep. But immediately though, I'm like, hey, this teacher's already way more attentive in doing his fucking job, and I like that.
And I know this bully kid from something too.
Oh, he's like someone. He's interesting because he just grows up and just becomes like horror movie guy. He's well, I mean, this isn't really horror, but I guess he's like the main kid in like the Goosebumps movie. That's something. But
Oh,
he's also one of the main characters in Don't Breathe, which I haven't seen
okay.
yet. But he's one of those guys. He's also in
I did
Scream
like Don't
5.
Breathe.
I need to see that. But he had that face where I was like, I know this kid, this fucking Percy Jackson looking perp. He's got that shitty 2010 hair.
Is this
But
supposed
yeah,
to be a
he's in a bunch of
reference
stuff.
to the Elias thing? Him bullying
Uh,
and
the
changing the bullying from like little piggy to like, oh, you're just like a little fucking girl.
it could be. I have another read on it based on what I know about Matt Reeves. So I know that Matt Reeves is very touched and inspired by the story, and it was really impactful on him. I've also seen interviews with him promoting the Batman, where he's talked about how when he was growing up, he was bullied a lot, specifically for having a high pitched voice. And
Mm.
forgive me if I have this wrong. It's been a while since I've seen those, but I want to say he said stuff like he was teased and called like a little girl when he was a kid, and that's something that was with him for a while. So I think the parallels you're making might be correct, but I also think it's him writing from personal experience. Like I think
Actually, this
his
is a
bullying
Matt
growing up,
Reeves
he put
self
it.
insert. This movie's garbage.
Yeah,
Fire
he
James
did
Gunn.
write the screenplay.
I don't know why related to this, but this movie should get James Gunn fired. And there is something I can see where this kid is coming from a little bit more because how many kids from this era did kind of grow up to be monsters, basically, just from like a
Yeah.
broken home or.
Hmm.
Oh, they reversed that exchange.
And this was a really big year for Chloe Moretz. This is the same year as Kick Ass,
Right?
2010. I believe so.
Oh, you're right. For some reason, I always think that's a 2008 movie.
Hmm. Yeah, just one of those really great child actresses who's in a bunch of stuff who doesn't currently have a great career, but hope she bounces back with something good. I also haven't seen a lot of her recent stuff. I just know she's in like the Tom and Jerry movie. It's like, oh, you deserve better
She was
than
in a Hulu movie, Mother Android or something. It was all right.
hmm.
Mother slash Android. And don't forget, she was in the Addams Family, those shitty animated movies.
Oh. So, with this guy, it's Richard Jenkins in this one. He's great as this guardian for Abby. When he, and this is in both versions, when he later tells her, "Hey, I don't want you to see that kid anymore. Um, stay away from him." Do you think it's out of jealousy that, oh, you remind me of me, you're young, like she's gonna be more interested in you now and I want her for myself? Or is it, oh, I want to spare this kid from my fate? Like which.
I don't have a reading on it for this version yet. In the Swedish one, I do very much read it as jealousy.
Mhm.
Like, you are mine.
Yeah, and again, it's very creepy
Yeah.
but also very sad. I just wonder if there is a part of him that's like, oh fuck, like I should stop this before it starts. And okay, so this scene, a lot of the Batman in here, which is obviously calling back to stuff like Halloween, but their take on him with like the trash bag and everything, it's so his take on Riddler.
Mhm.
And you get that scene where he's in the back seat of the car and takes and knocks that guy out. Some of this is very similar to how he shoots that there.
Interesting.
It
Yeah.
also has some. It also feels very Zodiac killer, and being set in the '80s, like this is still kind of like that stuff's pretty recent.
It was interesting because, like, I like him a lot, but I don't know if I can pinpoint him the way I could, like, say Fincher. Um,
Yeah,
because like this is very, this is very Fincher, and so is the Batman. But then like the Apes movies aren't really that. Cloverfield
yeah,
isn't.
hmm yeah. Like I said, stylistically, this is way more in common with the Batman than the Apes movies do.
Mm-hmm. Like this is gorgeous.
Mm.
You're wasting
And,
so much blood.
yeah, you idiot. And yeah, it's brutal and plays out slightly differently because here it goes pretty smoothly until he slips on the ice and all the blood spills out. And the other one that's like interrupted by those people walking around and he has to leave. I think both kill scenes with this guy are handled really well in this version, where you just get the feeling that like he's done this a million times. You know, it's just routine for him.
Robert, I went from maybe seeing the American one once, and I've definitely seen the Swedish version. To I've watched these twice within 24 hours.
Yeah, and I will say these don't wouldn't recommend watching these back to back. You should probably put a little bit of distance
No,
between
because
them.
they are both very slow, methodical.
Yes. As opposed to something like Dawn of the Dead, where not only is it a very different movie, it's also a very differently paced movie. That's
I'm kind
you
of
can
hoping
watch
that's what we land
those.
on next.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, you can watch both of those on the same day and have a good time because
Uh, so just
two
because
very
this
different
came up
zombie
on my
flicks.
feed, uh, I think we have finally hit critical mass with this popcorn bucket thing. Have you seen the Lord of the Rings one?
Oh no, I haven't.
I'm gonna send this to you. It is absurd. I don't know how they expect this to work.
Oh god, that's if 2024 is gonna be remembered for anything, it's the popcorn button.
Are you
That's
supposed to eat popcorn out of that thing?
oh, I want one. That's
I do
amazing. That is
too, but
what I was
like,
expecting. It's
but like, you can't hold that without it going down like six other seats.
no, you stick it up your ass. That's what.
Oh, Jesus!
Uh,
What were you
I,
expecting?
I don't know, but you finish your popcorn and then you fucking hit somebody on the head with it. It's great.
Mm.
Okay, this scene hits way too close to home. Really uncomfortable, serious assemblies at school, where and then there's always those fucking twerp kids who are laughing at something really inappropriate, and you just want to die and not be there.
I'm gonna be
God, those are the
honest.
worst.
I was probably one of the twerp kids laughing at something because I didn't want to be there.
God, yeah, I'm not gonna get too into it, but there was one we did that was on drunk driving, and there was like a lady speaking whose like teenage kid died and was getting like very angry that some kids were laughing, and it was just like this is fucking miserable. It was like Jesus, like very serious and very hard to sit through. There was another one. I don't know if your school did this, but where it's like, all right, we're now you're doing your assembly where we're gonna teach you about gonna have all the kids in the gym and teach them about Columbine, and I'm like, oh my god, like
No,
I never heard of that before. Yeah,
what?
it was just like, yeah, it was weird. It was uncomfortable. It was like, yeah, I get why we're learning about
Strange.
this. I don't know why it's an assembly. I was like, oh my god, I'm 14. This is sad. Oh god. And now we're back to the Rubik's Cube scene. I have a cousin who knows how to solve Rubik's Cubes and can do them super quick. And I'm like, you fucking magic.
You should change it to something else that's more, I don't know, 80s American.
That's what I like about it, though, because it's just a very universal, popular toy. I mean, these were really big in America, especially in the 80s. And we do an arcade scene later. That's a bit.
You know what's funny? If this movie came out now, that would be Finn Wolfhard playing Oscar or Owen.
No, but he'd be too old because he's like 20 now.
That doesn't matter. Or I guess even if this movie had come out even a few years later, it would have been Finn Wolfhard.
Mhm.
But no, France has always, I think, been a really good actress that has never been appreciated uh,
She's
like
really
she
good
should
here.
have.
And in Kick Ass, she's awesome. Like, she steals the show.
He's
She's
so good
really
at
funny
Kick
in
Ass. And it is astounding to me that those come out at the same year. He looks older in this.
that. Hmm.
It's also just like shocking. She's like 12, and she's in two of the most adult movies of the year.
Yep. This is the big scene. This big attack where she's gonna kill this guy and drink his blood. Where it's effective in both until she turns into a CGI spider monkey. That was a mistake.
Yeah, is it really that expensive to just put a stunt double and some wires? The lighting in this scene is so good.
Mhm. Well, this one, and I understand your preference, it's you get a lot more heavy shadows. You get a lot more contrast to this one. Everything in the first one is just stark and white, which
It's
I
a
really
spooky
like. But
picture.
yeah, this is a bit more of a spooky look. And I will say, neither of these, maybe the first one more so, like these certainly aren't traditional horror films. I don't even like. I guess it's fair to call this a horror film, but it's a lot of
Oh
other
my
stuff. It's a
god, I
coming of
didn't
age
notice that
story.
when I was watching earlier.
Yeah, this is the big one, and it's bad. It's too long. It's too over the top.
That was, you know what though? It's still better than the cats.
Yeah, maybe by a little bit. And neither are good.
The cats look like a scary movie gag. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Also, why does she
but
have
I
to
get
like turn into something different? Like, just never have fangs.
yeah, I'm definitely kind of torn on it. Like this version has like a clear human form and a vampire form. I don't really need that.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of the American like. If you're gonna do that, just do like the Buffy thing, where they just kind of have like subtle prosthetics. If a TV show from 20 years ago can do it, you can do it. Come on, Reeves.
But I guess I should frame that as a question. Like, do you consider these horror movies? Like, they
Yes.
certainly have horror elements.
Yes,
Yeah,
just in the
it's.
theming and ideas, like
I think for me, it's just that they're so melancholy. I think of these as dramas first. Like, these are just really sad dramas. They're coming of age stories. There's a lot going, but obviously there are horror elements. Like, not disagreeing with you. It's just hard for me to put these in a box.
to like Silence of the Lambs is a horror thriller.
That's
This
true.
is a horror drama. Midnight Mass is a horror drama.
Hmm?
Obviously, that's what makes the genre so cool because you can have zombie movies, slasher movies, drama, romance. This is also, in its own fucked up way, a romance movie.
Hmm.
You could edit this into a rom com. Let's try that.
like the wacky shenanigans of Richard Jenkins disposing of this body.
Yeah, you just put that like chicken dance music behind it. Speed up the footage a little bit. It'll be fine.
Oh my god, she's a wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Also, this kid's Australian and he hides his accent pretty well.
I had that with Naomi. To bring it back to mention, I watched Smile. I didn't know that Naomi Scott was British
Yeah.
until I heard her doing press for that movie. So I'm watching the movie and I'm like trying to hear like maybe any cracks in her accent. I didn't know better, I would have said she was American. It's not Christian Bale and Batman where you can hear his English start to crack sometimes. Psychopaths. So is this the prequel for The Last of Us? Like in a few years, the virus is gonna hit. Abby was a vampire all along.
That wasn't her dad. That was just her protector, buddy. But speaking of accents, I think one of the best is Gary Oldman. When I was a kid, it blew my mind when I found out that Commissioner Gordon and Batman Begins and Sirius Black and Harry Potter were the same guy. I could not see it.
Oh, see, I never had.
I think he's really good with accents, particularly American accents. There's just one line in Dark Knight that always cracks me up when it slips. When he's on the roof with Batman and Dent, when he says, "They knew we were coming," and I was like, "Ah, there it is, you Brit."
Yep. Well,
You
no,
say
see,
new, you don't
I
say
knew they were the
new.
same person, but I always thought that the Gordon voice was his real voice, and he was putting
Oh,
on an
okay,
accent for Sirius.
that's funny.
I will never forgive them for getting Sirius Black perfectly cast and then not doing anything with him.
He's got some good stuff in the fifth one. He's really good in that movie.
The fifth one though, that one especially, like you needed to pad that out a little longer. It is too short.
Oh, for sure, but he's got some really great scenes. Uh, do you think this is too on the nose? They're watching and reading Romeo and Juliet, or do you think that's fine?
It's fine. They're not they're not Romeo and Juliet in terms of they can't be together, but they want to be. It's they shouldn't be together, but then they will be.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like in Romeo and Juliet that they both take their own lives, and in this story with these characters, it's like they take their own souls. You know, it's like,
They have what would be on the nose, in my opinion, would be maybe like Bonnie and Clyde,
mm,
something where
I can
like
see it.
they're together outside of the norm, and like they're both kind of bad people. But also, we should just stop like making Romeo and Juliet the standard for anything good or bad romance. That lasts like 3 days and 10 people died.
Well, I think it's just an often misinterpreted story. It's often hailed as like one of the greatest love stories ever. It's like, no, it's a tragedy because of these situations. Like these characters didn't get to experience real life. You know, all it was for them was the fantasy. Like it's a story about young love. It's not a story about true love or whatever you want to call it. You know,
And you
I think it's
should
just
be like looking up to that first place. Like
no.
you don't put yourself into a coma or whatever happens in that story to try to trick your family into thinking you're dead. This is very Halloween 2007.
Oh yeah, this could be at the same school.
I see that one kid is doing the very American. I have really long hair and I'm gonna wear like a toboggan. I had a moment where I didn't realize that was a bandage, and I was like, God, how far did they split his cheek?
It's turning into a deadite.
He's gonna be dead by dawn.
Yeah. Like I said, the way we shoot his mom in this is very interesting because we almost never see her face. You know,
Yeah.
she's always absent, like kind of out of the frame, which is why I didn't realize it was Nancy Wheeler's mom. But this is a good little bit when she's like, "Oh, you're reading Romeo and Juliet," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I have to for school. It's boring." And we know for her, it's like, "Oh yeah, like this is something she probably actually likes and has read many times, you know, and has history with." for him, it's just an assignment and not something he's interested in. Because most 12-year-olds aren't into Romeo and Juliet or Shakespeare. And like I said earlier, there are a few deleted scenes for this that I watched that also had Matt Reeves commentary attached to them, explaining them. One of them is a little glimpse into Abby's backstory when she like it does confirm that, oh yeah, this was hundreds of years ago. And what's interesting is the vampire who turns her is dressed in robes and has like a very kind of satanic look to him, really leaning into that satanic panic theme. Except apparently in the book that goes way harder and is a lot more brutal, and there's more like torture and stuff. Whereas here it's just the bite, but it's still really uncomfortable and hard to watch. And Chloe Moretz is acting really convincingly, but it's shot like kind of out of focus. But it's really brutal and uncomfortable. I get why they cut it, but it's still like, ugh. It's certainly effective. It's this scene's interesting because it's in both, and it's weirdly even sadder in this one, where she really plays it like, oh, like she doesn't care about him anymore. It's like, just get out of here. I'm using this room. Like, I'm not looking at you.
Mm.
Like, I don't. It's I'm you are just a pawn for me, and it's really sad.
As much as I do like the way this movie looks, this also is just like peak 2010s.
Yeah, it at least doesn't have the shitty blown out lighting that a lot of
Yeah.
those did, like a Scream 4. It doesn't go that far. All the lighting in this is reasonable and logical. There aren't lens flares covering half the screen. And there's a picture of Jesus.
Ian McGregor's in this
Space Wars. I like that, Miss Backman. That is a good arcade game. This kid sucks at it.
Remember arcades?
And like we said in the other commentary, this idea of just not being able to eat or enjoy anything as a vampire, like, oh, that really sucks. It's like they just want blood. That's all they can consume, and ugh, seems very unpleasant. And like I said, this is the big scene where she says, you know, I'm not a girl. And in the other version, that's very literal. And in this one, like you said, the take is more like I'm not human anymore. I don't see myself as a girl anymore. I think that's kind of clunky. Maybe just because the line's like word for word, and I don't know. I would have maybe changed up a little bit, but I see where you're coming from.
Hmm.
Except it's kind of a different spin on it. And like I said, this isn't a criticism; it's just different. But my interpretation is that the romance in this one is meant to be a little more sincere, like just a little more genuine and both sided. Which, as a result, is still tragic and awful. But
I
in
think
the
you can
other
almost
one,
read it as her she's tired of her current toy and she's found a new toy.
which is still fucked up.
I would be fascinated to know what that sequel looks like.
Yeah, I mean it's just a short story, so probably not much to it. But yeah, it could be interesting.
I'm sure it's just like this is what Owen is doing X amount of years later.
And well, like you said, this is a kid who's just in an awful situation who just wants to grow up and leave. And I mean, he gets what he wants. For him, it's a happy ending, at least temporarily. And even one thing that I appreciate the stuff with the mom though, it's still very subtle and believable that we get that conversation with his dad later about like your mom, you gotta not get caught up in that stuff. She's like a religious nut. She's crazy. They don't play her over the top. This isn't which Stephen King does sometimes. Like she's not insane. Like and again, it just makes it more tragic because it's very believable. It's like, yeah, this is just clearly a woman who's suffering depression, and religion's just one outlet for her and something she cares about. But they don't go too over the top crazy with it because again, she's not abusive mom. She's just neglectful in certain areas that really count. Like maybe she's trying her best, but her best just isn't enough in this situation. But this scene's uncomfortable. It's very intimate, and you can tell, like when he was younger, that they probably had more of a romantic relationship, and now that's just gone. And again, you can still interpret as just her manipulating him. And I'd also like to see Chloe do more horror movies, but Carrie probably just wasn't the right fit.
Yeah, I don't hate her in that movie.
And I haven't seen it. I've heard she's fine, but that you just don't buy her as the social outcast, and that it's
Oh,
just
that's
not
something we
convincing.
need to.
That's what I've heard. Oh, okay.
We'll do the two theatrical ones. Well, not the TV movie won't count
We'll still probably cover that elsewhere at
at
some
some
point.
point.
We'll do a Stephen King miniseries month.
I do want to do a commentary on The Stand, the '90s one. It's 6 hours.
And I like how this sequence is handled a lot, especially in comparison to the first movie, where the result's the same. Where we're gonna see him try to kill somebody, but this time he's gonna fuck it up and essentially get caught. I really like the way we remix it here, where we've established what this version's routine is. You know, he hides in people's cars and sneak attacks them, and he's done this a million times, and now it's going wrong because now there's somebody else in the car that he wasn't expecting, and now we see where it's going to go wrong, and it's really tense. And it's something Matt Reeves talked about, where you should be pleading for, you know, these teenagers to make it and this guy to get caught, but because we the audience are have been in this guy's head, we're weirdly more nervous for him, like, oh no, it's gonna go wrong. It makes you very conflicted as a viewer, and I really like that. And there is a bit of dark humor here, just a little bit, where the guy in the passenger seat, like, he moves it back and like hurts him in the head. He like throws his backpack on his legs. Like, there is just a touch of comedy here that I appreciate. And to what you were saying earlier about the lighting in this movie, there is a lot more color in this one. There's a lot more variety, and there's just a lot communicated with this scene where we're focused on him. We're in the car, and we know we're at a gas station before somebody even
Do
says
you
it
think this
or
music
comments it.
taste pick is a little on the nose?
Probably, but I don't mind it. It's like, yeah, but sounds good. But what I like about the lighting here is just it's very blue and it's very specific. Like, this is gas station lighting. Like, you just know it when you see it. In this reveal, he's like, "Oh shit, it's so good."
That's a great shot.
Hmm. And again, very reminiscent of the Batman.
Okay, this is not as this is over. This is on the nose in a different way. I mixed up my Blue Oyster Cult songs. I thought for a second this was "Don't Fear the Reaper," but it's not.
Oh no, 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 no.
You
Yeah,
like
I
Blue
knew
Oyster
it wasn't.
Cult?
I like the couple of songs I've heard, and this shot is incredible. This long take of going from the car, that will seamlessly transition into an effects shot of him rolling down the hill. Like, this sequence is really well done.
Now Matt Reeves, man, he knows how to make a movie.
Hmm.
This makes me want to watch the Batman.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
But you said earlier you were surprised that this is $20 million. at least you see the money on screen. It's like it's for sequences like that. Like
Mhm.
that's an expensive sequence. Uh, a CGI Chloe vampire, you don't need to do that. But this is good stuff.
Oh my god. Yeah,
And
no,
this is
that
in both.
that song choice was definitely on the nose, but I don't hate it.
And this is in both of him dousing himself with acid. Like, oh god, it's so fucked
It's
up.
Hey Robert, you know what they call that? It's boiling acid.
Yeah, and I mean it's a couple things going on. It's both a suicide or an attempted suicide, and he's trying to make it difficult for them to ID his body, to kind of protect. Like even in the end, he's kind of trying to protect her, and it's really sad. And again, this is in the other version too, but here we've made a point of all the victims being teenage students or former students, where we're really leaning into again the satanic panic and fear for the youth and all like the paranoia and all that stuff going on. The 80s is all about fear for the children and needing to protect them, except when we hate and ostracize them for not conforming. That's the 80s.
I'll stop you when you're lying.
When this nurse walks back into the hospital, I want to just hard cut to the guy walking down the hallway with the shears from Exorcist 3. Just throwing that jump scare in there, like, oh god, they got me. But this is a scene where I'm glad we stuck with the other movie instead of going back to what the book did and turning this guy into more of a villain. Because here, and again, this guy is a murderer. Like, we've seen him do horrible things, but it's still really sad because it's all just for this girl, and this is literally the last thing he can give her is his blood and just letting himself die, which he does because at the very end he's trying to help her and he's literally given everything to her, and it's just, and then it makes you wonder like fuck, like how long has this cycle been going? She is like 200 years old.
Yeah, this
This
looks
isn't the first time she's
awful.
gone through. No, it doesn't look good. And it's mostly practical, but it did that Jackie Earl Haley thing where there's just a couple green screen spots for some CGI, and yeah, it kind of ruins the whole effect.
Yeah, just like there's an uncanny valley thing to it.
Mhm.
And now we're caught up to the beginning of the movie.
Yep. And we're at the midpoint. I do think that there's kind of a mistake here, though. Uh, I don't like that we cut to literally the same footage from the opening because now we're back in Elias Koteas's POV. I think this whole scene should be shot differently. I think we should be following the nurse and just shifting the POV. That's my only gripe with it. But I do like this part though, where we get him looking out the window and then we see Abby there. Like, it's still a satisfying payoff to how the prologue set this up. And we were talking earlier about a lot of these American remakes of foreign horror movies don't go quite as hard and are kind of sanitized for American audiences. This does that a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like it still was more adult than I was expecting. Like this still goes to some rough places. Like it's not toned down that much, and we still get scenes like this that are really uncomfortable. And I was just surprised we went there. But like you said, these movies are paced so methodically that they don't make for a great double feature.
Well, they do.
Well, one thing I'm surprised this movie had restraint on. Both movies cut away whenever she flies. Like we never see her flying on camera.
They fly
I,
now.
I they fly now. This movie did have the restraint to not give her CGI bat wings, or ever see her literally turn into a bat. We never do that in this version,
Thank
so you got to give it
God.
that. And why don't you wipe your face? You look gross. That's a lot of blood. That's what she says. I'm not a girl. I'm nothing.
No, I think
Uh,
that makes sense.
Although it is funny, when they were changing the title of this, originally it was going to be "Let Her In," and the author said, "Well, it's not technically a her," and suggested "Let Me In." It's just funny that they made that change when you look at the finished project. Clearly, that whole element we're just not doing here. Like, no, this is a girl. Like, you could have called this "Let Her In." And like I said, in the flashback they shot when she's actually turned and becomes a vampire, like she still has the long hair, she's still dressed like a girl, like clearly like that element from the books. Just that's the main thing that's just not here. And like we were saying in the other commentary in the Swedish one, it's just ambiguous how much that character like literally identifies as a girl, or if that's just all a front, just all a facade, just to trick and manipulate this character. And now I'm having deja vu because I'm like, what? We saw this scene already. Oh, right. It was the other movie. Because now we're at the ice scene. And again, we need more adults, but this guy's at least trying a little harder.
I don't live in New Mexico. That's closer to you than it is me. Where's all the snow coming from?
I don't know.
Is hockey like even a thing in that area?
Granted, that is a big state. It probably just depends on what part of the state you're in. Yeah, with how much snow is here, that is weird that they picked New Mexico as their setting. Because I know they did shoot in New Mexico, but I mean a lot of this is fake snow. Like they really
Mhm.
had a add to that. So yeah, why pick New Mexico? It's such a weird choice. And the teacher, the Mr. Zordic, do you know who that actor is?
You don't look familiar.
He is in The Dark Knight. Uh,
Wait a minute. Is it the
we're not seeing him
Hungarian?
now. Or he's Russian or something. The one gangster guy with like the longer hair.
Yeah, that's my
Uh,
favorite of the gangster guys. My
he's in the
dogs
classic
are hungry.
Yeah, that's him. And it's a Brit in real life. Yeah, he's an English guy. I do like him in this. It's just a shame that they cut most of his scenes, but I do love him in Dark Knight. He's in our favorite gasoline scene.
He's also apparently in Creed.
He is in Creed. Yeah, he's the trainer, like in the first half, who's like pestering Rocky to train his son, and Rocky keeps turning him down, and then is like, "What the fuck?" He's training somebody else.
And
Yeah, that guy's really good.
he's a voice actor in BioShock.
Oh, cool. He's also you wouldn't have seen this. He's in the final season of The Walking Dead, or like the second to last season, and he's doing like a southern accent or something in that. But he's
Yeah,
really
so
good.
he's listed here as playing Pope.
Yep, he's Pope. He's good at those accents. This guy.
No, I love him in The Dark Knight. He's my favorite of those monster characters. Although, what is it, Eric
Oh my
Roberts?
god, they found the thing.
Eric Roberts in that movie, I think that's his name, always makes me laugh with the way he goes, Ramirez. Like he's a fucking snake at the end.
My favorite of his scenes is when he's in that club with the girl, where he's like, "What makes you think I want to hear you talk?"
Ugh.
Yeah, in scenes like this, when they're like talking about potentially suspending him, I'm just like, "Fuck off! It was self-defense." Yeah, I know he's a little psychopath, but they don't know that. These neglectful ass teachers and his mother. Come on.
Come on, what are you showing me here?
Mm.
Mm.
Even in this scene, we're not really getting a good look at her face. Like that's a very deliberate choice.
Mhm. Not to
And
bring it back to Buffy again, but there is an episode in Buffy where she's talking to a character, and it is specifically framed so you only see like the bottom half of his face. It
Cool.
reminds me of that. Everything
And
is
also,
Buffy reference.
I'm pretty sure it's a Home Improvement reference.
Mm,
Everything comes back to Wilson.
I mean, that's just true. I love this shot. Or like forebodingly coming towards the camera.
Hmm. And a question you had at the start of this was like, do you buy that this vampire even needs a companion? I think another justification for it, more so in this version, is it's clearly the idea is once a vampire is drinking blood or attacking somebody, like they can't control themselves, they become very animalistic. They need a companion who's not a vampire, so when he is killing people, it's very meticulous and careful, and
I more so
it,
that she's
it's
lonely in this one. This is a
mhm,
very lonely character.
yeah. And I think it's around here where there's a cut scene with the teacher where he's talking to Owen in the locker room and says, "Hey, I know what you're going through. I had a tough time when I was your age. If you ever need somebody to talk to me." And Owen just doesn't really respond. He just kind of ignores him and leaves. And it's really sad because the idea is like, oh, like this teacher did reach out. It was just too late because he's already too infatuated with Abby. Like he's already on that path, and it's like in his head, it's like, well, I already have somebody to talk to, so I don't really need you. Um, so I get why they cut it, but it's a good scene. And this is framed differently because the dialogue's very similar, but it's acted so differently with the bully and his brother. Where in the original they seem to have a pretty close
I think
relationship, and
I'm.
here,
I think I'm a second ahead of you because I'm on the kiss scene.
oh yeah, I think you're. I noticed that earlier. I think you're a little ahead of me. Yeah, because now I'm at it. But with the bully and his brother, though, in this one, it's like, oh, the older brother is clearly abusive, and there is the cycle of violence and bullying that he's picking up on.
Mm. It's all about cycles. This movie
Mm.
is the editing the theme of the movie. Robert, your nose is all healed up finally.
Yeah, took a while.
That's what you get for getting into a bar fight with a sharp object. Mm.
But like the other version, he's gonna offer doing a blood pact. Also, oh my god, I used to have that chair. I just noticed the one next to her. I had that exact chair. That was my gamer chair when I was a teenager.
Yeah, see, this is a much more reasonable blood pact cut.
Yeah, not a hole cutting your hand open. Let's shake. What would you find more revolting, that or the spit in the hand?
Blood. 'Cause it's an
I mean,
open
I don't like
cut.
either.
I don't like either, but the blood isn't like in an open cut. The spit is just it's on your hand. You can just go wash it off.
That's true. I think if I'm in that situation and a buddy of mine either spits or cuts in their hand and like, look, let's shake. I think my reaction is, you're not my friend anymore, and I'm leaving.
Come on, Robert. Well, let's do it.
Ew, don't do that,
Stop with the
Abby.
CGI. He's not a monkey. No, this one especially, this version. She's a wild animal.
Mm. Like, oh my god. And like, so at least we're consistent with it. You know, we don't shift POV to these neighbor characters. We don't get to know them. We always see them through the kids' eyes. Do you still wish they had found a way to develop this character a little more? So it happens to her is a little more sad, because like I do prefer it in the first version.
I like that that's in that version, but this movie's already 2 hours long. What matters the most to me is Abby and Owen's relationship.
Mhm.
That's why if you're gonna do this again, it should be a show or like a mini series, and not something that just has the name slapped on, but in no way resembles. Meanwhile,
And
on the phone with Casey Jones,
yeah, such a weird choice that he plays two completely different characters in this, but
I mean, he's not
I
even
don't
putting
think
on
I
a
would have known.
voice. Like I can just tell that's him.
It's still a good performance. Like, I'm cool with it.
Ugh.
Like I said, I think we're maybe going for something thematically, like he is meant to kind of see a bit of his dad in the detective, or his detective is meant to remind him of
I,
his dad. Like, maybe we're doing
I don't know.
something.
You see this all the time. Just they didn't have the money to hire a voice actor. You got a guy on set. It's like I'll do it. I got his credit and
So,
like trying to desperately avoid wrestling spoilers till we're done with this.
so this kid fucked up. He called his dad and was trying to, and he asked him like, "Do you believe in evil?" He should have called up Dr. Loomis. This would have become a very different movie. The evil. I can't get away from evil children. I'll be right there. I'll shoot her in the face.
He would too. Especially if it's the sequels limit. Isn't that so cool what I just sent you?
Mm.
I would kill to see. Although I'm not a big fan of their cell. Why? It's weird.
Also, an interesting choice this makes is a lot of the adults aren't named. Owen's mom is just credited as Owen's mother. You don't get her name. The detective is just the detective.
Mhm.
I kind of like that choice. Like I said, I do think it's weird to cut the bit where she shows him all the money she has because that's kind of important for the end and where they go. Like it's a nitpick, but
Okay, so that image is significantly less cooler. I did some research and it's an AI image.
oh,
I couldn't
you
tell just
fraud.
looking.
And this is the big thing that where we go from subtext to just text. In the other version, it's entirely ambiguous who her companion is and how long they've been together and what that relationship is. No, this version confirms that, oh, she met that guy when he was a child and she has ruined his life. And he is now dead, and she's gonna do the same thing to this kid, and it's a fucking tragedy.
It is, but that's what I love about this version.
Hmm. Yeah, and I forgot that they did make a point of showing that that he had that birthmark in that photo that we gave Richard Jenkins as the older version. So we do make that super literal. And again, it is a departure from the book because, as you said in the book, that character is a lot older when he and Abby or Eli meet. And I do prefer this. And yeah, it's just like an awful cycle that this implies. That yep, she's learned nothing, she hasn't changed, and she's gonna go through that whole experience all over again with Owen.
And you just know there's got to be somebody out there that like completely misunderstands this. I think that's how like a wholesome relationship.
Yep. So I like how this scene, takes its time. She's waking up, she's smelling the blood, she's changing, and it's really fucked up and disturbing. Remember in the New Salem's Lot when we just hard cut that kid just sucking down a pack of blood and then dies? And you're like, and it happens in the span of like 30 seconds. And you're like, what the fuck?
This does this is a little too over the top. I think.
I like, you mean like the fire bit?
Yeah, the
Uh,
nurse on
the
fire.
nurse, that part's really funny. But I just love the shot of Elias Koteas and the other guy just talking, and in the background we're seeing her much on the blood. That shot's really cool. But
No,
yeah,
that is.
when
But once you get to like the nurses on fire,
and again, it's different because in the other version it's a lot sadder. It's a deliberate choice of her taking herself out. In this one, it's clearly an accident. It's
mm,
just a bad time all around. And like so, I do like the way we revamped that character because that girl's boyfriend kind of exits the movie at this point, and we pass his role in the story off to Elias Koteas, the detective, and it's really natural. It's a simple change that works. And I don't know if we missed it or if it hasn't come up yet, but there's a bit with the TV where we see the '80s ad that says like it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? That was a big thing in the '80s because people were really scared about children getting abducted and murdered. Um, and it's like, fuck, man, being a kid in the '80s was fucking scary. Like either you're worried about being kidnapped and murdered by a serial killer, or getting blown up by the Russians. Either way, it's a bad
so this was her
time.
audition tape for Carrie, by the way.
Oh, except that was PG-13, so they had to make the blood. I'm pretty sure it was PG-13.
The blood being brown.
At least in the advertising. I haven't seen the movie, but I remember the advertising, like the blood looking real muted.
I mean, it has been a minute since I've watched that. Like, I like that movie, but that is a case where I would rather just watch the original. I still think my favorite vampire movie is From Dusk Till Dawn, but this, this would be a top five.
Yeah, both of these are top 10 for me for sure. From Dusk Till Dawn's a whole other thing.
I love it so much.
Uh, I'm already. We just watched it like a month ago. I'm like, I could put on that movie after this. Like, I could, that movie definitely has the rewatchability factor.
You just want to hear Cheech talk about how many different types of pussy they have.
That's. I mean, who doesn't? That's my ringtone.
I know you're joking, but I kind of wish that were true because I'm just imagining you being like in Starbucks or something
Work.
or at work, and that just goes off.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is that the movie doesn't beat you over the head with the fact that this is a bad relationship.
Mhm.
As far as this movie is, if you're just watching this and not thinking about it, this is a wholesome, like healthy relationship.
Hmm.
It's all in the
They
subtext.
yeah, like they like each other. They have similar interests. Again, I think there is a sincerity here that they are going for. Like you said, there is a loneliness they're really emphasizing with this version of her, but there's still that underlying manipulative element.
Damn it! Now I want to watch From Dusk Till Dawn.
But you can't because you got to watch wrestling.
It's true.
Oh, there it is. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Yeah, you are definitely behind me. That was like 2 minutes ago. All right, I have paused it. Tell me when a hand is touching a like a PO box or a mailbox of some kind.
Waiting. No. Okay. Now we should be synced up.
I don't know how we got so out of sync. We're
I
watching
have
these on
no idea.
discs.
I really like that detail that her writing is very nice and professional, and obviously not at all how a 12-year-old's handwriting would look. But obviously, she's been around for a couple hundred years, so her penmanship is better than mine will ever be.
And mine.
So my head canon is that this is Casey Jones. This is a legacy sequel to TMNT 1990, and he's playing him as very tortured over
Doesn't he need
killing
a
Shredder.
warrant?
Ah, yeah, he's an 80s cop. He doesn't need a warrant. But this scene is really tense, where you're like, "Oh fuck, I'm not. I know what's gonna happen, and I don't want him
Could have gotten a warrant.
to die." To be fair, and obviously, I'm sure 80s rules are very different than 2024 rules. Generally speaking, if a cop is knocking at your door and says that they are the police and like you don't answer, they're probably allowed to enter your home at that point because you are required to answer, and he knows that there's somebody in there. So in the
Um,
80s, yeah, I could buy that. But I die down. He knows too much. Owen,
Alan.
Alan, Alan.
I like this piece of music here. Very suspenseful.
Oh yeah.
Of course, the light doesn't work. You're in a horror picture.
Also, a thing I wanted to mention earlier, why this also has that similar feel to the Batman, is same cinematographer, Greg Fraser.
Oh, okay. We love Craig Fraser. Oh, Greg Fraser. Sorry, he's Australian. Never mind. We
Oh.
don't love Greg. We don't love Greg. Just kidding. Damn, he gets around. He's done a lot of movies that I like. He did Rogue One,
Yeah, it's a great looking movie.
and he did those Dune movies. Well, at least one of them was good.
The scene's brutal. And again, one of those minor changes that I think, um, again, I don't think it's a problem, but that Owen here does have just a tiny bit more innocence, and that like it's still fucked up when he closes the door and lets him die. But in the other one, he pulls a knife on him and is like clearly considering actually harming him or killing him. Here, it's played a bit more like an accident, or like this isn't what he wanted. He just says no, like stop, leave, and then it's too late. Then she kills him, and then it's like his turn here is just letting it happen.
I think it's much more natural. Like, not that the Swedish one is. It's just that kid is too much of a psychopath. Or I'm sorry,
And
that was the
they
picture
actually
I
did,
used for the thumbnail.
yeah. And they did shoot the last deleted scene I want to talk about. That is in the Swedish one that they shot for this, but cut, is that bit before she kills him when she's talking to Owen. Is like, you need to be like me. Like, you're a killer. Like, I know it's in your heart. And they felt like in this version, it just didn't add anything. That he was already kind of on her side and was going to go with it. It works really well in the Swedish version, but that's a bit I think was fine to cut here, or at least I'm not missing it. But she's giving him what he wants. He's lonely. He wants a girlfriend, and well, nobody's perfect.
He could do worse.
And like I said, it's a lot of the dramatic music in this that reminds me of the Batman. These Michael G. Giacchino scores, not like the main thing, but like the flare scene when he's saving those people, like a lot of like the emotion, like just a lot of the strings and piano, like there's a lot of overlap with the instruments he's using, and the type of melodic music he's going for, that I really like. I still think I prefer the score on the Swedish one, but I do like the music in this.
Oh God.
Are you tired?
Yes, apparently.
Do you wish you were watching wet wrestling?
I mean, I'm curious to see what happened. We're building up to war games, but war games. No, admittedly, this is struggling to hold my attention because I've technically watched this story 4 times in the last 24 hours.
Same here. But this is a slow burn movie you actually like.
It is. But the thing that I find with this versus some other slow burns that I haven't is I like the characters, whereas a lot of the slow burns, it's just a bunch of characters that are either nothing or very minimalist, and you're just watching them do things until finally you get rewarded for watching them do things at the hour 50 mark. This also never feels slow. Ah, yes, my favorite burned garbage.
It
Remember when the kids at school used to go out and burn the garbage?
was a simpler time.
Before the dark times, before the empire.
Like I said, I like that he's a good teacher. Just we need another adult here.
That has got to stink like shit.
Oh god. And this bully's brother, like he's so fucked up and evil in both versions. It's just framed differently because in the other one it seems like they have like kind of a twisted healthy relationship. Here this bully's brother is like also a tormentor and was calling him a girl and doing the same teasing that our bully's doing to Owen. And here it's framed almost like with this older brother, it's like no, you broke my brother's ear, you don't get to, I get to do that. Like nobody fucks with my brother but me, so therefore I'm gonna do that to you. And it's just this really twisted psychosis justification. And yeah,
It also
this scene's
looks
hard to watch.
unhealthy.
God, this scene's hard to watch.
Fight very hard.
If there's anything positive we can say about the modern younger generations is at least modern kids are too consumed by TikTok and other bullshit to be fucking psychopaths like this. That's
No,
why you had
instead,
all these crazy Stephen King bullies. They're just bored. Like they got nothing else to do.
no, now it's making you wish you were dead online.
And like I said, in this version, you don't really get any development for the other bullies. Like they're just stock henchmen. In this,
Mm. I
and in this one, they
really
all
like the
die.
way this pool, like the pool lot, is lit when he's underwater.
Mhm.
I'm also apparently just a sucker for a blue tone. You don't see that often. I hope this gets a 4K.
It should. It's a good movie. Yeah, this movie's not talked about a lot. I mean, like you said, it's on like
I
Tubi or
forgot about
something.
it until we landed on it, and I own it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the least remembered of Matt Reeves' movies, which is a shame because it's a good movie.
Better than Cloverfield. I'll say that. Of
Uh, they're very different. I do love Cloverfield.
course she would.
I do like the shots we get of the snow falling.
I like the blood spreading in the pool.
Somebody's gonna have to clean that.
That's your job.
It does make one no, like when that teacher does get back in the building, it's like, what the fuck happened here? That's he probably got fired, right? that that happened under his watch. Uh, his mom, Owen's mom's left alone. A bad time for everybody.
I'd be fine. She won't even notice.
Well, happy ending. The kid's on the Polar Express now.
You know what you don't know is there's a post-credit scene and it shifts into that awkward, uncanny valley animation from the Polar Express movie. Is he signing the same thing there or something different?
I'm not sure.
I shall research. Hopefully, the last time I have to Google, let me in. It doesn't say.
And now he's watching the sunrise.
We
Happy
did
ending.
it.
He did it. Oh, it's so sad. Like it's even worse. In some ways, it's worse in this version because he knows like what his future is gonna be. He's seen it happen to the other guy. He knows that that guy was a kid when Abby found him, and it's like he's just accepted it. Like, yep, this is gonna be my life and how my life's gonna end, and I'm cool with it because my family sucks and I'm tired of bullies and just awful.
All right, Robert, where does this fall amongst the three remakes that we have watched so far for you? And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be critically, just your personal like ranking.
Um, you're probably gonna disagree with this. I think I'm gonna give Evil Dead 2013 the edge over this. They're really hard movies to compare.
No,
Obviously,
I
that one's a lot
actually
more
also put
rewatchable.
2013 over it.
Yeah, and
This is probably a
the
better
biggest,
movie. 2013 is just easier
yeah,
to
right.
watch.
Like, which is funny because that also has some horrendous fucked up shit that's really difficult to watch, just in a different way, in a popcorn way. But yeah, that's a really fun movie. This is probably a better story, but there's some story stuff in that I like too. But yeah, I like both. I'd give Evil Dead 2013 just the edge of this, and then shock of shocks. The real hot take is I'm gonna surprisingly put this over Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. I hate
Noah's
doing
gonna
that.
be so mad at you.
It's I can't believe that movie's on the bottom of the three we've watched, but hey, maybe that'll change on the next one. But
All
yeah,
right, Robert.
Let Me In. Good movie. I prefer Let the Right One In, but they both